Welcome to Father and Son, and welcome to you, Tom, on
Morning,
this
Dad.
Tuesday morning. What's the date? The 8th, is it? I don't know what day it is.
Thereabouts.
All right, we better tackle Libya first. I think it's probably very, very important. Check the oil price through the roof.
Yes, it has. In fact, overnight in the US, West Texas Intermediate hit $106 a barrel. And here in Asia, where they price oil in Singapore, it's hit $122 a barrel. Now, what that means for local petrol prices is petrol in the range of probably $1.45 to $1.55 a litre. And Dad, it was only 2.5 years ago, of course, in mid-08, we saw oil prices go to $160 a barrel, and local petrol prices briefly hit $1.70 a litre.
My service station opposite in Carlton selling at 149.5 now, and has been all week.
Yes, yeah. There's plenty of stories of people, $1.50, but I reckon it's going to go through $1.50 at the peak of the weekly cycle. So, not good news. However, there are some positive signs. It's only a rumour at the moment, but some headlines flashed up on some trading screens this morning suggesting that Muammar Gaddafi was in talks, or was attempting to hold talks with the rebels. Now, we don't know if that's true. It was reported by Al Jazeera, the Arab news network.
Right.
But if it's true, and if they could negotiate an end to the fighting, I think you'd see the oil price come down $10–15 a barrel very quickly.
Yeah. Now, so what are they negotiating about? Is he going to step aside?
Well, he's saying he would hand over control of what they have as a parliament there. It's a Congress of People's Deputies or some sort of Stalinist-sounding organisation. Presumably he would want immunity from prosecution, the right to hang on to all of his assets and everything else. I don't know if I were the rebels whether I'd be prepared to negotiate with Gaddafi.
I think I would. I mean, they're in a fairly weak position. They don't have as much, they don't have any aircraft, they don't have any helicopters, they've got miles behind in terms of their military equipment. So I think they've got a real battle.
Well, but that's true if you just look at the equipment. But if you think that it wouldn't take much, as we saw in Egypt, for big chunks of the military to change sides, if that happens, and it could well happen, then of course if you've got the pilots and the technicians changing sides, well then all of a sudden the rebels do have an air force. Now it hasn't happened yet, but I think if the military senses that the rebels are a lot more popular than Gaddafi, and that seems to be the sign, I think you could see the military deciding to defect. Anyway, we don't know at the moment, it's only a rumour, but as a result, motorists are paying through the hip pocket.
Yeah. All right, the polls came out this morning, and we talked about Gillard's tax on carbon, and obviously the people are very upset about it because she had a 22-point lead over the Leader of the Opposition. Now it's cut back to 11. The Liberal coalition has 54 to 55% of the vote, and the Labor Party's down to 45 to 46% of the vote. It would be a landslide victory to the Conservatives if an election were held now.
Absolutely. Look, first party preferred, it's even worse for Labor. They only garner, according to this poll, 30% of the vote. This poll was in the Australian newspaper. What's also interesting, 3AW, the Melbourne radio station that you and I appear on each week, they did a sort of a bit of a poll on their website this morning. Would you prefer Kevin Rudd or Julia Gillard? So you don't get a choice to vote for the opposition. It's just which of the two recent Labor leaders. Well, 89% of people said they'd like Kevin Rudd back. Now, that is very odd. I mean, it suggests to me the grass is always greener on the other side. But look, I mean, you've said many times, I mean, Gillard's not attempting just one tax, it's three taxes: the mining tax, the flood levy and the carbon tax. Just getting one tax through is hard enough. To do three at one time, it's probably never been done, and it's almost certainly electoral suicide.
Yeah, I think it is, absolutely. I think she's for the high jump.
Well, the only thing would be is, of course, I don't know if we'll have an election for some time.
No, I don't know.
What would be interesting, though, is if we have a by-election. Now, statistically, in the next couple of years, someone in Parliament will die, someone will resign, something will happen, and therefore a by-election has to be called. Now, the Parliament is so finely balanced that if the government lost a by-election, it would not have a majority to govern, and then that's when the Governor-General might have to step in and say, well, you know what, we need a general election to sort things out.
Well, talking of the Governor-General, it's International Women's Day today, and she came out saying that that they should compulsorily put more women on all the boards. And then Joe Hockey was on Q&A last night, and he repeated the same thing. We may have to legislate. I reckon it's sheer nonsense.
Well, it's tokenism. Look, one of my directors talked about when they bought a US stockbroking company in the 80s. He went over to America, visited their office, and found rooms full of women mainly black and Hispanic, and they weren't doing much. And he said, well, what are these women doing? They said, well, under affirmative action, we have to employ them and we can't sack them. And to be honest, they know they don't have to do any work. Now, I'm not suggesting that if you put women on boards, that's what would happen, but I think tokenistic gestures are often that, tokenistic. And if you're a woman who was appointed to a board under an affirmative action policy, your colleagues would be looking at you, you know, and would be thinking, well, you know what, the only reason you're here is because we told you. Having said that, I do think it would be good if more women were involved in corporate life. But the other thing, Dad, is, of course, not everybody wants to be a director. I mean, apart from the top 200 companies, you don't get paid much. You take on enormous personal liability. You know, if the company trades while insolvent and you're the director or a director, you know, your personal assets are at risk now. To be honest, I mean, I don't understand why everybody assumes that people want to be directors of companies. It's not a sinecure. It's not, you know, just an easy life. It's pretty tough those days.
Yeah, I think it is. Having sat on a lot of boards myself, including BHP, National Mutual, Northbrook and Hill, obviously Elders, if you're an outside director, it's very difficult to have much influence on the company, because in the end the management runs it and they dish the stuff up and they dish up what you want to receive.
Yeah, people
very hard to influence.
Yeah, people assume directors know everything and are capable of doing anything. I mean, companies often go broke not because anybody's done something bad, but you know, business models change. I mean, the world changes, and capitalism is such that not everybody will survive. Not every business model will succeed. And I'm not sure that we understand that. If we think that being a director is just a path towards the upper echelons of corporate life, well, you know what? It's a tough job. Yes, some of them, and it's a small number, get paid a lot. But most of them have to work very hard. Anyway, I think we will see more women on boards. In Finland,
I think that's a good thing if they get there on merit. But I mean, let's not have legislation. That Joe Hockey does say some stupid things at times.
Well, I was watching Q&A and I could see, so there's Kate Ellis from the Labor Party, and you know, there's you know, all the moderator all from the ABC, all more to the left than the right, sort of nodding in furious agreement with Joe Hockey. And you can imagine Tony Abbott sitting there saying, you know, what has Joe done? I mean, shut up! And anyway, away he went.
Well, Rupert Murdoch's got a big week this week. It's his 80th birthday.
Well, speaking of people on boards, I mean, some people say that's too old to still be chairing a company. Of course, he runs a News Corp with an iron fist. I've always been amazed at with Rupert Murdoch. He seems to have this ability to turn his hair from snow white to black and back again. I mean, how is this achieved?
Yeah, they just colour it up. But it's interesting. I was talking at the Savage Club the other day with one of his directors. I've forgotten his name now. He did all the transport policy for Victoria. And he said, I said, how is Rupert? He said, well, he's getting a bit frail physically, but his mind is just so sharp. He said, I learned so much by going to the directors' meetings in New York. And he's also having lunch with Julia Gillard today. And he and I have one thing very much in common. When we made Andrew Peacock, we were going to make him leader of the Liberal Party, I went to Rupert and said, will you support him in 1990? And he said yes, which was good. But we at Elders and he at News Corp used to always hold their annual meetings in Adelaide so that nobody much would turn up. He did it for years. I don't know if he still does.
No, he doesn't. They still have an investor briefing in Adelaide, in fact around Australia, but their meetings now, their formal annual general meetings now held overseas. One more thing about his age, I've heard that he uses his alleged loss of hearing to good effect. If he gets a question he doesn't like or doesn't want to answer, he just pretends he can't hear and then moves on to the next one. And so that's where age can be an asset rather than a liability.
Yeah. All right. Well, the Prime Minister is over there meeting with Obama. They had a 45-minute discussion. She's addressing the Congress. I hope they can understand her because I find it difficult at times. So that's about it for this week, Tom. We'll see you next week.
Look forward to it.